The Street Files, a complete mystery short story, every Wednesday. File 33. The Tunnel. Since she started as a law student last September, Poppy Street has lived in shared accommodation in the new Bridewell Halls of Residence, near the heart of Bristol. Of all the people that she's met, one of her best friends has become the girl in the next room, Grace Oxley, with her shock of auburn hair, which she immediately said was a family trait. They had met on their first day when they'd both just been dropped off at the start of 3 years of undergraduate life. Grace has a twin brother called Tom, who is also at the university. Their parents had unexpectedly inherited an estate in the Cotswolds called Cranborough when the children were small. As well as 2,000 acres of farmland, the estate's centrepiece is the 10-bedroomed Cranborough house in its own valley on the Cotswold escarpment. The children try and get back home on some Sundays, but feel split between uni life and home life. So 2 weeks ago, the brother and sister decided to invite 2 friends each for the weekend to bridge the gap between the 2 halves of their lives. Grace had asked Poppy to come, and the third girl is the brown-haired, brown-eyed Maya. The 3 girls meet at Grace's Toyota Yaris at 4:30 on a Friday in May to make the journey to Cranborough, and Poppy sits in the front passenger seat. As Grace noses out of the car park, Poppy says, "Tell us how you ended up with this massive house then." "There's only us 2 kids. Our mum and dad used to run a restaurant in New Malden until we were 10, and we went to local state schools. Then this man turned up at our house on a rainy Tuesday in November. I remember looking at him out of my bedroom window and thinking that he looked serious. He was a solicitor and had flown from Italy. We had a distant cousin, my 3rd cousin twice removed actually. He died in Italy without children, and the solicitor was his executor. They'd spent weeks searching for any relatives, and in the end they found Mum as the only living beneficiary." "And that changed your life, did it?" says Poppy. "Yes, Mum and Dad sold the restaurant and the house, and we were moved to posh boarding schools in the home counties. Mum and Dad bought new places in Portugal and the Maldives, and they lived there. Every holiday we were taken by taxi to the airport by one of the teachers and put on a plane. Then Mum and Dad would meet us off the other end. One holiday there, Mum and Dad came to pick us up and took Tom and me to the Cranborough estate. That's where we're going this weekend." "Did they inherit it as well?" says Poppy. "It was part of the inheritance, but they hadn't bothered to see it, with all the arrangements they were doing on buying and selling houses. Tom and I loved the place, but Mum and Dad preferred living abroad. Mum asked her sister Yvonne to live in Cranborough because it was empty, and we started staying there in the holidays sometimes. The year after that, Mum and Dad were killed in a yachting accident, and Yvonne became our legal guardian. So we ended up at Cranborough for every holiday, and she brought us up, really." "Were you sad about your Mum and Dad dying?" says Maya from a back seat. "Yeah, but they weren't the same after the money," says Grace. "They'd kind of left our lives already." She looks at her friend in the rearview mirror. It takes just over an hour to reach the country lane outside the village of Sapperton in Gloucestershire. Grace stops the car in front of enormous black wooden gates that are nearly hidden beneath overgrown trees on one side of the lane and are supported by ivy-festooned brick pillars that are 8 foot high. "This is the back gate," she says, "but there's no auto-opener, and we'll have to do it by hand." They all scramble out. Grace has a large key in her bag that fits a Victorian lock in the centre of the gates, and they put their weight behind shifting the heavy bolts from the ground and heaving the gates open. "Why'd you come this way?" says Poppy, as they push the gates back against the shrubbery. "To avoid Richard," says Grace, but she doesn't explain any more. They shut the big gates again after Grace drives the Yaris through, and the car climbs steeply up through woodland until they reach some sort of summit. The trees end and they see Cranborough House for the first time. It has 3 floors and is built of grey oolitic limestone, quarried locally 300 years ago. There are 8 windows on each floor on each of the 4 sides, topped off by a steep roof with tall chimney stacks. Around the immediate house is a lawn and stone balustrade, with sweeping sets of stairs to the land around it. The ground floor is engulfed in wisteria that clings to the stonework and is cut back every spring. As the girls get out of their car, a black BMW 218 appears along the main driveway. "That's my brother," says Grace, and the other car skids slightly on the gravel as it stops near them. A blonde-haired woman in her 40s with bright blue eyes appears at the top of one of the sets of stone stairs, and she drops down to them before Grace hugs her. "This is Yvonne," she says. Tom steps out of his car with the Oxley family auburn hair, and 2 other boys also emerge. He introduces them as Rob and Daniel, who are on his course at Bristol. Rob is fair-haired and boisterous, while Daniel is more reserved, with brown hair cut short and deep green eyes. Yvonne shows them all around the ground floor rooms of the house. A 30-foot lounge ends in French windows onto the veranda, and the dining room seats 16 at an oak table. She takes them up to their allocated rooms. Each teenager has their own bedroom. The girls are on the first floor because the rooms are all en suite, while the boys have the top floor to themselves, where there are 4 bedrooms and a shared bathroom. At 6 p.m, the 7 of them gather in the lounge. Yvonne makes martinis and tells them the story of how she learnt to make cocktails when she shared a house in Shoreditch in her 20s. There was a flat roof on the building next door, and they would all sit out at night and make up stories for each other until dawn. The young German cook in Cranborough is called Mirabelle, and the maid is called Alice. They serve beef Wellington and haddock mornay for dinner, with white chocolate raspberry mousse cake for pudding. "What are we doing tomorrow?" says Rob to everyone, as they're finishing the meal. "There are quad bikes in the barn," says Tom. "We can take them out across the estate." "How much land is there?" says Maya. 3 square miles, if you can imagine that," says Yvonne. "From here to the tunnel." "What's the tunnel?" says Rob, looking excited. "It's blocked off now. You can't get in there anymore," says Yvonne. The conversation moves on, but Rob doesn't forget about the mention of the tunnel. After Yvonne goes up to bed at 11:30, Rob is full of suggestions. "I only want to do one thing now," he says to the others. "Go in the tunnel. Some guy died down there a few years ago," says Tom. "What is it?" says Poppy. "There was a canal in it years ago," says Grace. "Let's go and find it now," says Rob. "Who's coming?" "I'll come," says Maya. Rob and Maya get their coats and disappear off across the grass around the house, with 2 torches that cut through the darkness, as the 4 teenagers who are left in the house watch the others walk off into the night. The next morning, Poppy is up early for a reason that she can't fathom. She has a shower and gets dressed before anyone else is even awake. She knocks on Grace's door and pushes it open, but the girl is still asleep. When Poppy checks on Maya, there's no one in the bed. She goes downstairs and Alice the maid is in the hallway. She has green eyes and bobbed, light brown hair. "Is there any juice or anything, please?" says Poppy. "I'll bring it out, miss." She smiles and bustles away through a white sprung door in the hallway. Poppy walks to the lounge and stands watching some birds on the lawn before she hears someone come in behind her. When she turns, she can see that it's Tom, wearing pyjama bottoms. "Rob's not in his bed," he says. "Neither is Maya." "Shit," he whispers. "I don't know if they came back." "Did you call him?" she says. "No, I'll get my phone upstairs. His number's on there." "I'll call Maya," says Poppy, as he walks out. She dials and puts the phone to her ear. The line rings and she waits. And she finds herself counting the rings. Then it goes to voicemail. Tom appears, dressed now and with his phone. "It went to voicemail," he says. "Same as hers," says Poppy. "We should go and look for them. Where's this tunnel?" "I don't know really, I've never been down there. Yvonne always said that it was out of bounds because the roof is caved in and there's acres of other land, so I just never went down there." Alice reappears with a jug of orange juice and 5 glasses on a tray. She places the tray down, looks at Poppy and then smiles. "It's Alice, isn't it?" says Poppy. "Yes, miss." "Do you know where this tunnel is?" "The Sapperton Tunnel," she says. "Yes, I grew up around here. We used to go there and explore." "Can you get into it?" "Not anymore, they've blocked it up." "Could you help us find it?" says Poppy. "Two of our friends went off to find it in the middle of the night, and they're not in the house now." Alice frowns. "Do you have to ask someone if you can come?" "I'll tell Mirabelle, she's the cook. She'll be fine." "Have you got a torch as well?" says Poppy. And the girl nods as she walks out. Poppy and Tom wait in the morning light and drink orange juice as they wait for Alice. Then they unlock one of the doors to the veranda and step outside. They can feel the chilly air on their faces as they walk across the grass and past the formal rose garden laid out in the shape of a heart. The ground falls away quickly, and after 5 minutes, the hillside is wooded. Tom is getting more anxious, and they are getting quicker the further they walk. Eventually, they reach a steep-sided valley in the land. "It's down there," says Alice, and she starts to put her feet sideways to navigate the incline. At the base of the valley is a limestone tunnel mouth, and the 3 of them stop when they reach that level and look into the blackness. "It's blocked off inside," she says. "We'll have to look," says Tom, and he takes the torch. Then he and Poppy start to go into the tunnel. The biggest change that they notice is the silence underground. It's as though the world outside has been put on pause. The bird song and the rustling leaves on the spring breeze have all stopped. Gradually their ears can detect new sounds of dripping water from along the tunnel, and a low, distant rumble rolling down through the earth around them. They walk on, and Tom's torch highlights thin slices of brickwork as they go further. Out from the darkness, slowly they can see a metal barrier across the width of the tunnel. There's a gate in it that has a chain threaded through and a padlock hanging off the end. When the barricade is 10 feet away, Tom says, "There's someone there." They move as fast as the bumpy surface allows. "It's a bloke," says Poppy. He's slumped at the base of the wall where the curve of the roof joins the ground. He's half sitting, and his legs are spread out before him. His clothes are drenched in the residual water that runs on the floor. "Shine your torch on the man's face," she says. "It's Richard." "Who's that?" "The groundsman," says Tom. "I'll check his pulse," she says. "My mum showed me, on your neck. You put 2 fingers on the big artery." She goes down on her haunches next to the man. "Give me your torch, Tom." She wedges the torch in the fencing so it illuminates the man's neck. Then she presses her fingertips onto his carotid artery. After a second, she looks at Tom and shakes her head. "He's dead," she says. And there's blood in his hair. Looks like someone hit him on the head. We'd better tell Yvonne. Poppy looks at him in the half-darkness. What about Rob and Maya? We'll find them later, he says. And they start to walk back outside. When they get back to Alice, Tom says, There's a dead man in there. The girl looks horrified. It's Richard from the house. What do you know about him? Says Poppy. Yvonne employed him 5 years ago, when the previous guy died. How did the previous guy die? Mending his shotgun. It went off in his face. That's suicide? She says. No one cleans a gun with the bullets in it. It was definitely an accident. Yvonne was insistent. Poppy frowns, but decides that this isn't the right time to discuss a man's death from 5 years ago. Tom starts to hurry uphill and back to the house. Come on, we'll go back. She turns to look at Alice as they follow the boy. Do you know Richard? The gardener? She says. Not really. He doesn't come into the kitchens or inside the house. He's got a cottage down by the river Froome. Does he live on his own? Says Poppy. Alice looks embarrassed. What is it, Alice? Not my place, miss, to say anything. It's only rumours. It may be important. Alice looks up towards Tom, who is now 30 metres ahead. And she looks around, as if checking to see if anyone is overhearing them. Miss Yvonne and Richard, she whispers. They were supposed to be. She doesn't finish the sentence. They were seeing each other, says Poppy, screwing up her eyes slightly. And Alice nods nervously. Were you here 5 years ago, Alice, when the last gardener died? No, I've only been here 3 years. It's 15 minutes before they reach the house. Alice disappears through the white-sprung door to the staff area. Poppy and Tom run up the stairs. He goes to find Yvonne, and Poppy knocks on Grace's door. The girl is just finishing getting dressed. Sit down, says Poppy. Grace looks quizzical, but obeys and sits on the bed. You've got a groundsman who works here? Richard Lee, says Grace. He's in the tunnel mouth, about 30 feet in. Tom and I just went down there. He's dead. Grace puts her hand up to her mouth and opens her eyes. She can't think what to say. Tom's talking to Yvonne, says Poppy. I imagine they're calling the police and an ambulance. She can see Grace's eyes are watery, and her features look frightened. It's okay, says Poppy, and she sits down next to her. They sit there for a minute. He taught me to fish, says Grace. In the Froome without a rod. Just a stick and some string. We caught a brown trout. She smiles. There's something else I need to tell you, says Poppy. Tom and I went out with Alice the maid to find Maya and Rob, because they never came back last night after they went out. Grace is looking confused now. And did you find them? Not yet. We found Richard and came straight back here. Were they involved with Richard's death? Says Grace. They don't know him, do they? Do you need to know someone to kill them? She looks directly at Poppy. Of course not, but there's got to be a reason to kill someone. You don't just get randomly murdered by people for no reason. Do you remember in that lecture last term by Prof. Stewart on our course, Motivations for Crime? She reckoned all crimes are about personal benefit and never anything else. It could have been an accident, says Grace. Richard could have had an accident. He was hit over the head. Blunt trauma. Who benefits from killing a gardener? Says Grace, screwing up her nose. That's what I want to find out, she says. Tom pushes in through the bedroom door. Yvonne's called 999. They'll be here soon. You can't get into the tunnel by road, so they're going over the fields from Sapperton village. I'm going down there with her. He rushes back out. How well do you know Maya? Says Poppy. As much as you, really? Says Grace. We share a student flat. Do you think she and Rob found some cosy clearing and had sex? No, I don't, says Poppy. It was freezing last night. Maybe they found a house. We should go and look. They could be dead too, says Grace. It's scary. Are you coming? We won't know what's happened if we just sit here. Poppy stands up. Come on, get a coat. The girls go outside and drop down the stairs from the veranda. Do you know where Richard's cottage is? Says Poppy, and Grace nods. Right, we'll start there. They walk east and across fields with sheep in them. Then the land slopes away down to the valley of the River Froom. The cottage is built of local sandstone and is on a curve of the river. There are chickens outside and an area of the land has been fenced off as a garden. Poppy walks straight up the path to the front door and knocks. He's not going to answer, is he? He may have had a girlfriend. I don't think so. Were Yvonne and Richard seeing each other? Says Poppy, and checks Grace's face to assess if this is news to her. Grace is silent. You knew. Was it serious? She was lonely. This is a massive place. She's single. All her family are dead. Mum was her only sister. They had a younger brother, but they lost touch with him years ago. Poppy puts her face up to the glass on the front window and shields the light so that she can see inside. Maya's in there, she says, as she tries the door handle, and it's unlocked. They both kneel next to the sofa, where the girl is lying with a blanket over her. Maya, says Poppy, and the girl starts to wake up and rubs her eyes. I fell asleep. Is it the morning? Why were you here? Says Poppy. We couldn't find the tunnel and got lost. Wandered about for hours until we found this place. There were no lights on, and we were cold and tired, so we came inside. There were blankets, so I slept here, and Rob was in the chair. She nods across to a blue-checked armchair that has another blanket half across it and half on the floor. And he left, did he? Says Poppy. He was there when I fell asleep. We need to find him then. The three girls track west again from the cottage and along the riverbank of the Froom. The tunnel's not far from here, says Grace, as they walk through the trees that droop over the water. I used to come down here all the time when I was here on school holidays. Tom said he never came down here, says Poppy, because Yvonne said it wasn't allowed. Grace laughs. He was here more than me. When they reach the tunnel mouth, an ambulance crew have arrived, and Yvonne is standing nervously near the entrance. They can see that she's been crying, and Grace cuddles the woman. You're right, Yvonne. It's sad to see people we know die, isn't it? Says Poppy, trying to elicit some sort of response. Was he good at being a groundsman? She continues. Yvonne smiles through watery eyes. I liked him. I knew you were seeing him, says Grace. I'm sorry this happened to him. He was going to move into the house, then this happens, says Yvonne. Exactly the same thing happened 5 years ago. I started to like the previous groundsman and someone shot him. Where's Tom? Says Grace. Didn't he come down here with you? He had to be somewhere, says Yvonne. He had a message, then was worried about something, and he said he had to go and sort something out. One of the paramedics emerges from the tunnel. He is dark-haired, with kind blue eyes. Mrs. Uxley, he addresses Yvonne. Do you know if they're doing repairs to the tunnel at the other side of the metal barrier? We can hear people talking. I don't think so, she says. All right, well, we're bringing the chap out now. You may not want to watch this. Yvonne turns away uphill, and Grace and Maya go with her. But Poppy stays, as her curiosity is piqued. Within 2 minutes, the ambulance man reappears with his colleague, and they carry a stretcher with a body bag on it across the ground and up to their waiting vehicle. Poppy is left on her own by the tunnel mouth. Now she can hear voices, echoing out from somewhere underground. She looks across at the ambulance crew and they're busy loading the body on board. She still has the torch in her back pocket from earlier, and she turns into the tunnel mouth and walks into the darkness. The ambulance crew have covered the ground with a plastic sheet where Richard had been lying. Poppy shines the light beam further down the tunnel, and she can see the metal gate, but she can't see any further into the darkness. As she moves the light, she can see the chain and the padlock. And from this position, she can see that the padlock is unlocked. Poppy grasps hold of the lock and pulls it off, and the chain slides out from the gate and falls loudly to the ground. She pushes the gate. The air smells of water down here. Poppy starts to walk and keeps the torchlight ahead of her. She feels water on her face that's escaping from cracks in the brick archway above her head. There's the sound of talking again, more distinct now. She pauses to listen, but it stops. Poppy walks on. Each step now has to be carefully placed as the ground is getting more uneven. Her torchlight flicks across the tunnel. All the time she is trying to see if the people who were talking are anywhere near her. Then she sees something in the darkness. A shape. No more than that. She squints in the half-light to make her vision better, but can't make out any detail. She wants to call out to see if anyone's there, but she decides not to. More steps and the shape has more form now. It's another body, and it's not moving. Poppy walks slowly up to it. It's a boy, about her age, she thinks. His fair hair is matted with dirt from the watery floor. She goes down on her haunches and tugs at his shoulder as she rolls his body over. She can see that. It's Rob. "Rob! Rob!" she whispers, and she shakes him. He stirs, and she's glad that this isn't another dead man. The unconsciousness washes away from his head. He opens his eyes, then closes them again. "Move the torch." "It's Poppy, Rob," she says. "What's happened?" "Myra and I got lost. Then we found a cottage. She fell asleep, but I couldn't, so I went out to find the tunnel again. And I did. I had my phone light, so walked down here. But I saw two men, or a boy and a man, really. Some bloke I didn't know, and Tom. They started arguing, then fighting, and Tom hits him. And the guy fell down. I saw it all, and Tom didn't realise I was there. When I stepped out from the darkness, and Tom started having a go at me. He said he'd just found this man in the tunnel, which I knew was a lie. He said we should hide the body, and he opened the gate up there. I said I was going to go and call the police, and he started attacking me then, and I ran off up the tunnel. He chased me, hit me over the head. I think he thought I was dead too, and he just left me." "Why was he doing all that?" says Poppy. "He was ranting at the bloke before he killed him. The dead guy, the gardener. He was Yvonne's boyfriend. They were getting serious. And if they'd got together and had kids, those kids would have inherited, because the way the parents wrote the will, Yvonne got the whole estate. So Tom and Grace would have had nothing. So he would have done anything to stop her having children, because it would have meant He lost his inheritance. Let's get out of here, says Poppy. And you can tell all this to the police. The Street Files, a complete mystery short story, every Wednesday.